tell me, what does it take to win a game? Practice. What does it take to win in life? Practice. But the big question here is, what do you do to practice that makes you successful in sports or in life? I'll tell you one thing. One of the hardest things that I had to deal with, that it was so hard, and I had to practice so hard, is when I first tried some of these things. It was so hard. And, coming from me, because I grew up in an orphanage where most of the time I didn't have shoes, and I would make my shoes out of tire parts and string. So you know how they say that practice makes perfect? Well, I really believe that perfect practice makes perfect. There's a research scientist by the name of Alan Richardson. He actually created an experiment, and he gathered a group of basketball players and divided them in 3 groups. And he tested their ability to shoot free throws. The first group, they were only allowed to practice for 20 minutes a day. The second group were only allowed to practice with their mind. The third group were not allowed to do any practice at all, neither physically nor mentally. So the results were astounding. The third group sucked. And the second group, they found that they were actually as good or better than the group that actually practiced. So can you imagine if you actually combined practicing with your body, with physically, and practicing with your mind? What kind of results that would give you? The video that they showed here with Pancho, that's exactly what I did when I covered my eyes. Because when I covered my eyes and I was dribbling that basketball, I was seeing a multitude of people coming towards me, and I was dribbling the basketball between my legs behind my back, dreaming that all these people were coming at me, but I was passing them and I was scoring. And I really trusted Pancho to help me, because he was telling me, stop, turn. And the reason why I had him help me is because the basketball court at the orphanage had a ledge on the edges, a concrete ledge that you could trip and fall. Trusting Pancho, because he didn't tell me stop and turn, because he thought I was looking, because I was dribbling so good, that I hit the basketball pole and I ended up having stitches in my forehead. I got so good because of the practices that I did. I was always thinking about ways that I could improve my game, my life, because my biggest goal was, how can I get out of this place? How can I pursue something that gives me more live hope for something better? In junior high and in high school, we got so good that we beat all the teams. We became national champions, and I got recruited by the Mexican national team to play basketball for them. And that was such an amazing experience for me. I went to Mexico City, met with the main guy, and we went back to the orphanage. They really, really wanted me. We waited for 3 months. Then one day, my brothers and I, my dad introduced American football. And my brothers and I went outside and played football. And I always had a thing with the boys, competing with them, because I always wanted to beat them, And we were playing football, and one of my brothers threw this big, nice, really sweet, long pass. And I ran, everybody was looking, I was like, yeah. And I jumped and I caught that football. While I was in the air, my body rotated and I hit the ground. And I realized that something was wrong. So I got up and I felt like somebody had punched me in the gut, but I could stand up immediately. So I said, okay, there must be something wrong. So I went to my dad, which he's a doctor, and he grabbed me by the shoulders and he kind of squeezed me backwards and he says, your dreams are over. That was the worst thing that I could hear, because I felt like basketball was really my ticket out. But the thing that really changed my life is that I changed my mentality from thinking that this is it, to thinking if something bad happens to me, I know that there's always something better. And I know that I'm going to continue to push myself. I'm not going to not do what I need to do to continue to maybe see there's hope. So 4 months later, my parents took a bus with all my 68 brothers and sisters to the U.S., and we toured around the country, and we got invited to a picnic in West Virginia. And by that time, I had healed, so we pulled up to this picnic, and there was a bunch of people, and there was a basketball court, one of those really old ones, outdoor ones. And we ran and pounded the ball and started to play. And there happened to be the coach of the University of Charleston, and she saw me play. And she went to my dad and told him, I want her to come play for me on a scholarship. That is the reason that I'm here today. Now, if I would have chosen a mentality to say that, I've given up, my dreams are over, and I would have sat back in the bench and not played with the boys, I would have never been here speaking to you today. So fast forward, I want to talk a little bit about my life. When I graduated college, I had some rough times. I became homeless, and I really talk about all that in my book. But I wanted to kind of try to get to the highlight of what really created a breakthrough for me. And one of the things that I realized in business and in life is that no matter what happens, you persevere. You have to keep moving forward, to push forward. And when I started my salsa company, I had $800. And it was really interesting because I was in West Virginia, and everybody was telling me, you shouldn't do this, you're not making any money. And I was in West Virginia with a fresh salsa. How odd is that? Nobody knew what fresh salsa was. And I remember when I started making my salsa in gallon batches and selling it to friends, and I would, pretend I was a millionaire and be like, woohoo, had a bunch of dollar bills. I created this list of stores to call, from the smallest to the biggest, and I got 90 no's. What, fresh salsa, what is that? Well, I was in West Virginia, so there was no Spanish-speaking people there, no Latin people, so they didn't understand the concept of fresh salsa. But I pushed on forward because I felt like I had something, that I had a niche, and I kept on going and going. And any time that something in life happens to me and there's a stop, I always do this: change my approach. Because when I change my approach and I'm still stuck, guess what I'll do? I'll change my approach again. And I'll do it 100 times if I have to. So what I did in that instance is I took that list and I turned it upside down. And I called the largest supermarket in my mind, that was the health store that I thought that was the largest in the country. And it was a Whole Foods market. And I called them, left a message, and I said, my name is Maria Magdalena de la Cruz Garcia. I have an awesome pico de gallo salsa that I think you guys would love. And I remember I was parked in the street, and the next day, and I got a call, and the guy says, this is Eric. Is this Maggie? I said, yeah. He says, Eric from Whole Foods. We love your product. We want to know more about you. When can you come? And I'm like, oh my God. I didn't say that on the phone, but I was. And I said, when do you meet next? And he said, tomorrow at 9 a.m. I said, I'll be there. The thing is, I didn't have any salsa made, so I had to go back to the kitchen, make salsa, drive, 8 hours to Maryland, and present to them. So I made it. I made it in time. 9 a.m., I walk into this room. There's all guys, U-table, not intimidating at all. And I walk in with my heels and my boxes of salsa, and they tried it, and Eric stands up and he says, we want your products, when can we have them? And I said, oh my gosh. And I said, how much do you need? And he says, we need 10,000 pounds of salsa for your first order. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I had one worker that was working with me, and we went back, and I told Eric, I said, I need how Americans say, get my ducks in the row so that I can get all this going. And I did. And I had a problem though. Banks wouldn't loan me money because that had nothing to show for. I didn't have any money. And so what I did is I actually reached out to people that I knew that could help me. But before I did that, I made sure I got a contract with Whole Foods. And I said, okay, I have this contract. I need $20,000 for cost of goods. Cost of goods meaning anything that goes in the product, from container, label, tomatoes, onions, everything. I said, I need $20,000. And look, in a week, Whole Foods pays me. I'll give it back to you. So I borrowed the money. Within a week, Whole Foods paid me $40,000. I gave back 20,000, and then every week just kept multiplying, multiplying, and multiplying. And what happened from there is that because I was in Whole Foods, all the other supermarkets were noticing me. And so everybody started contacting me, so the company grew really, really big. The other challenge that I had was when I had to deliver that first load of product to Whole Foods, I had to find a truck. So I got my truck driver's license. And it was so hard to find a truck. I couldn't find a truck. We had done the product. We did a whole week, 60,000 tomatoes, and just me and my worker. And I finally found the truck, and it was the ugliest, oldest truck I've ever seen. It was worse than a Mexican truck. It had wires sticking out of the dashboard. The seat wouldn't adjust, and it was squeaky when I drove it. It was a standard, and it had this stiff chick. I'm a stiff chick. I was a stiff chick on stick shift.
There you go.
There you go. English is my second language, you know. And so I took it to the plant, packed it up, and I started to drive. What I didn't realize is that when I was driving it to the plant, I was on flat surface. But when I was loaded up and driving to Whole Foods, there's a lot of hills in West Virginia. So I'm short. And I realized I stopped at a hill like this, and I was in the red light. I was the first truck, and there was cars behind me. I realized that my butt was to the back of the seat, and I couldn't reach the frickin' pedals. So I was going like this, pulling myself with the wheel, trying to press the accelerator and the clutch and everything, and the truck was going, and have you ever sweat so fast because you had so much agony? Well, I finally pulled that frickin' truck out of that hill, and I parked it on the side of the road, and I was like, I need to compose myself. And so I was thinking, I can't give up. I've already done all this. All I have to do is deliver this truck. What do I do? What can I see? So I got out, and I was walking around the road, and I realized that I saw a piece of woodblock on the road. And I realized that I had duct taped the mirror, the right mirror that was falling off the truck. So I ran over, and I grabbed the duct tape and duct taped the piece of woodblock on my foot, and I drove to Maryland like that. Now these will probably work, right? If I would have worn these. So I drove to Maryland. I was so excited, and then I realized 8 hours in that truck that the gas tank kept going low, 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 low. So I pulled over, and I realized I had a leak. So I had to stop a lot. And you don't park this truck where the cars park. You park this truck where the big trailers are. So every time I got out to, put gas on it, there was a bunch of truckers, and I looked like this. Hey, man, how you doing? And they were like looking at me so weird. So I made it to Whole Foods. Really, the rest is history. In my book, I talk about how Walmart happened, and it's really amazing how all that happened. And it just really grew. We had a huge plant, lots of 20,000 square foot plant. We ran the plant 24 hours because when we got the Walmart contract, it was just nonstop. And that was really the highlight of everything. But what I really want to emphasize is that what I practiced with my mind was so important. What I did to get me to that point. And in 2005, the National Research Institute came out with a document, a research paper that said that the average person thinks between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts per day. Out of all those thoughts, 80% are negative. And 90% of those thoughts are exactly the same repetitive thoughts as the day before. So if you're having a bad day, and Monday sucks, think again, right? So one of the things that we have every single morning when we wake up is we have two choices. We either let life control us, or we take control of our lives. And in my book, I talk about affirmations and things that I did and how I broke them down and how I really used them to make me successful. Ever since I can remember, even being a little kid, 6, 7 years old, I always used my mind to free me from the circumstances that I was experiencing. And I always looked ahead and saw myself as this super successful person, even though I didn't know anything else outside of the orphanage. I always saw myself as super successful. I looked like I was sitting behind the mahogany desk. I had a suit, I had some heels on, and I had long hair, except for I have short hair now. And I always visualized myself that way. Till this day, every morning, first thing that I do is I wake up and I do affirmations, visioning, and goals, and I start with the words I am. And I found through research that I am is so important when you're applying it to just waking up in the morning as same as right before you go to bed, because it's when your subconscious mind is more programmable. So when you use that and you take ownership of I am, and I in my book I talk about things like an affirmation, like for example, I am so grateful and thankful now that I'm joyously experiencing this by this date or something better. Isn't that amazing? I'm using different things there that have so much power. I am, first of all, I'm declaring my who I am, my spirituality, my oneness. I am so grateful. I'm declaring gratitude, which is something that always brings back to you the more you're grateful for. I am so grateful and thankful now that this moment, right now, I am so grateful and thankful now that I joyously, joy, emotion, I'm experiencing action. I'm so grateful and thankful now that I'm experiencing this, whatever it is, by this date. And the mind loves dates. And I always say, in something better. Why? Because if the universe can provide something better, why not, right? So, I created this product that's called the I Am Project. It's this little bracelet, and it's going to be out there. You can take one today. It's with the books and everything. But I like this because it's a constant reminder that I can and you can use it in so many different ways. You can use this and look at it every single day, even at work. I use it early when I first wake up. But you can use it and say, okay, what if I took every letter of the alphabet and try to come up with one word that was inspirational, uplifting, that gave me strength? You would have a hard time because you need practice. But if you did that every day and start, let's say, with A, I am awesome. B, I am beautiful. C, I am courageous. D, I am delicious. Not just kidding. But you can try all those things and you will see that your life will begin to change. Remember, taking control of your life is so important. What we did with the orphan kids, it was such an amazing experience that it really impacted my life because I felt like it was the moment where, I could die at any time. We were in waiting there. The hardest thing for me was putting all those kids in a room, and I had a 38 special gun, and my brother had a handmade Chisa shotgun, and we slept outside the concrete floor just waiting. And we did that for 30 days. And, I wonder what my life would have been if it wasn't for basketball. I wouldn't be here talking to you today. I wouldn't have been able to help those kids. I wouldn't have been able to make a difference. You know that video that talked about when I was in the orphanage, I was a hunter? Well, this is my original knife that I used to hunt with. And this knife was something that really brings me perspective, because I really never thought that based on the circumstances that I have, that I would have the opportunity to have the life that I have. But I do, because I saw it in my mind. And that's the reason that I'm here today. You know how they say that when life gives you a lemonade, you make lemonade. You make a lemon, you make lemonade. Well, I really believe that life gave me a basketball, and then it gave me a tomato, and I made salsa. So I'm so happy to be here today, and I wish I had more time with you because there's so much to my story, and I love sharing. And I want to thank Claire for having me. It's such a wonderful experience to always be sharing with strong women that, you know, are working so hard and trying to make a difference in their lives and in the future, because I find that women in sports are truly, there's a higher percentage of people that become very successful, that women that have been in sports. And I commend you, and I just, want to tell you that just fight and be the best that you can be a contributor, and make this world a better place. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Maggie. How about Maggie? Do not go. Maggie, stay up here.